All right, all right. Um, Let me just check the volume real quick, just to make sure everything is up and running smoothly. So bear with me for just a second. All right, looks like it's working. So I'm gonna open up with saying Shalom. Of course, got to give all praise to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Yahweh who the world ignorantly calls God, and Yahweh Shai who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. And I went live 30 minutes early just because, due to the weather around here, I probably only have an hour on here or so. But I did not want to cancel the stream, so I decided to go live for an hour because why not, right? So, a few interesting things to talk about. I do want to start off with this though. Is take a look at the date today. Does it remind you of anything? I remember going back. I mean, shit, going back 7, 8 years ago, man. Back when I was in school, I used to watch these guys on the internet who they'd say, well, on September 23rd, something's going to happen, right? Something big's going to happen on September 23rd, right? They were saying it 8 years ago, and they're still going around saying it today, right? That on September 23rd, something is going to happen. And I've always said, nah, that's not true. Nothing's going to happen on this particular date. And as the years go by, the same lie still continues, right? And now, if you ask somebody who believes that something's going to happen on September 23rd, you ask them, well, what do you think's going to happen? Like, what exactly is the big event that's going to happen? They all tell different things, right? Some believe, alien invasion on that day. Some believe, Antichrist be revealed. Some believe that, shit, what does some believe? The main belief, though, right? The main belief, at least as far as I know, going back 8 years ago, for September the 23rd, the main doctrine that people taught had to do with this hadron collider over in Switzerland, right? It's called CERN. Look it up. And what CERN is they have this 17-mile long particle collider, right? It sends two particles near the speed of light down two separate parts of this tube that connects, right? It goes 17 miles long. So they hit each other going at unimaginable speed in this tube, and they're trying to at least the theory goes, they were trying to like open up portals to, as people would say, hell, right, or to another dimension, to try to bring entities from the other side over to our side. That's the main belief, right? So I remember going years back, man, 7, 8 years ago, these guys would go around and be like, well, on September 23rd, right, CERN is going to open up a portal to the other side, right? So they can bring, entities from beyond into our realm, and that's basically the belief. Now, is that true? Is that really what CERN is doing? I wouldn't say so, though I will admit, of course, there are some shady things going on at CERN. Like, I don't know if you knew about this or not, but at the CERN headquarters, they have a statue outside of um of Shiva, right? Which is like a, what is it, like a Hindu god or something, right? A god, Shiva. They have a statue of her outside of the headquarters. It's like, wait a second, what the hell? Why the hell do you guys have a statue of a deity outside of your organization? It's like there's something weird with that, right? And with all jokes aside, there really is something weird about that. It's like, why the hell would there be a statue of Shiva right outside of the CERN headquarters? I mean, there's something strange with that. Like, I mean, you don't even have to be somebody who's into conspiracies to at least acknowledge it. There's something weird about that. It's like, why the hell would a organization that's supposedly like a scientific, organization, why the hell would you guys have a mythical deity statue outside? It's like, what the hell? Why? What would be the point of that? Obviously, it has some deeper meaning. In fact, there were a few years back, there was a video leaked online where these guys they secretly recorded a ritual that was going on at the Shiba um statue, which you can look up the video online. I can't go into detail on it, but in a nutshell, what it was is they were like faking a murder there. They were like faking a human sacrifice there in front of the Shiba statue. Look the video up; you can easily find it on the internet. So again, it makes you wonder. It's like, well, there's definitely something weird going on here, right? There is something weird that's going on at this place, CERN. Now, again, are they trying to open up portals to another place? I wouldn't go as far to say that, but they're certainly, doing something there, right? It's not just what they claim it is, right? There's something more to it than what they're just telling the public. But going back to the date, right? September 23rd, people have been saying for years and years and years, that the world was going to end on this date, or Christians be like, the rapture is going to happen on September 23rd. And it never does, right? Nothing ever happens on this date. So look, here it is, right? Another September 23rd, right? It came and went. Now watch. I guarantee you all the dollars in my bank account that they're still going to be saying next year, right? In 2024, September 3rd, 2024, they're still going to be saying that something's going to happen on that particular day. They still are going to say it. They're still going to say it. What's that? 9 years later, right? Because people first started to talk about this, and as far as I know, like 2015, right, is when people first started talking about that. At least as far as I know, which I could be mistaken, but that's when I first saw this stuff on the internet. Going years back. And again, a lot of those individuals that were back there all those years ago, the dudes are still around today, and they're still teaching the same nonsense. Because you got some dudes that might go on YouTube, that might make a truth channel, that might be there for 5, 6 years, then they disappear, right? So that happened to some of these guys, but a fair amount of them, are still going around and still teaching the same bullshit that they were saying, 7, 8 years ago. Like shit, I'll give you an example. There's this person named Claire. Her channel was named Still Small Voice, which I'm not sure if she's still on YouTube, but I know she is on what is it? It's either Rumble or BitChute that she uploads her videos on now. But shit, she might even have a YouTube channel. I'd have to go look, but her channel used to be called A Still Small Voice. And I remember seeing some of her stuff like what, 9 years ago now. And she's still going out saying the same bullshit. And the stuff she's talking about is that she has seen Jesus, right? And Jesus is telling her that the rapture is closer than ever, right? The rapture will happen on such and such date. We all need to be rapture ready because it could happen at any moment. It's like shit, she was on there saying that 9 years ago. She's still going around saying the same shit. And the thing that boggles my mind is at least all those years ago when I looked at her channel, she had like 35,000, 40,000 subscribers. It's like, damn. People are falling for this shit. It's amazing to me. No, but Christ warned about, that in the last days you would have, people going around on the internet. Well, not, he didn't use the word internet, but you have people going around deceiving and being deceived, right? So how are people mainly doing that today? They're doing that on the internet, right? They're going around deceiving people, and they're also being deceived themselves. And what's a good example of people being deceived themselves when they think that they're actually awoke? I'll give you, shit, I could probably give a handful of examples on this. A lot of people, the way they come to the beliefs that they have is they watch videos on the internet. Like, I'll give a couple examples. You'll have idiots going around and claim that dinosaurs don't exist. And when you ask them, let's like, well, how do you know that exactly? And what it comes down to is they watched a video that, like, a guy like Eric Dubay or um, Flat Earth Dave, he calls himself, or Derf, right? Other individuals like that, oh, Jake the A-hole, to watch a video that one of those characters puts out, and they'll just regurgitate whatever they hear. And then if you say that, if you try to knock some sense into their brain and say, well, no, man, dinosaurs did exist. They did at one point in time walk the earth. They'll look at you like you're some type of like weird person, pushing the evolutionist doctrine because you said that dinosaurs exist. It's ridiculous. But these people, their minds can be manipulated and changed very easily. It's not hard to mold a person's perspective. It's very easy to do. And that's how the governments, of the world have control over the population is, they train them when they were young on how they're supposed to think, right? What's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And since they were raised with that, they have no idea about the deception that they believe. Like, I'll give a clear, undeniable example, like with this whole flat earth thing, right? You know, I myself remember, being back in like preschool and first grade, and the teacher, she would grab a globe off of her desk, and this is a true story, right? I remember this to this day, all those years ago. The teacher would turn the lights off in the classroom. She'd grab a flashlight and grab the globe, and she would show us, right? The flashlight represents the sun over the earth, and she'd show us, okay, well, when it's daytime at one part of the world, it's actually nighttime on the other side of the world. Then, the earth turns, and then now it's nighttime for us and it's daytime for the other side of the world. I remember sitting there on the colorful rug and looking at the teacher giving that example to all of us in the class, right? And of course, none of us, would ask a question, regarding that. We just all would repeat it as true because, well, we're at school, right? We're at, the place where we learn, but now all these years later, we look back and see the deception for what it does, what it is, and what it was. Now that we're able to think for ourselves, we can see, well, wait, there's something wrong with what we're being told. There's something wrong with this heliocentric model of the universe, right? There's some major flaws that we're seeing. Like, for one, if you send up a high altitude weather balloon with a camera on it, and you make sure you take off the fisheye lens, it will show the horizon as completely level. The only time you see a curve in it is if you have a camera that has a lens that distorts the image. Like, I'll give an example because people be like, oh, there's no distortion to the camera view. Well, I can undeniably prove it because if when you watch these videos about them sending up these high altitude balloons, when the balloon is let's just say 5, 6, 700 feet above the ground, you can see a dramatic um, amount of what's the word I'm looking for, of curvature to the Earth. So if that was a real image of the curvature of the Earth, it's like, shit, the Earth would be a couple miles long at most. You know what I'm saying? So obviously, it's not a real image that we're seeing. It's a distortion from the camera lens that's distorting this image for us. I mean, again, anybody that can acknowledge it, that's a fact. It's just, the person's just very unreasonable and just is lying to themselves. Like, shit, I've seen this one video before. It was like a construction video, right? But the guy was going to go up a big ladder to the top of this building. But when he was on the ground, the camera was rolling. And and you could see there was curvature from the ground, like 6 feet off the ground, there was curvature to the land. So obviously, it undeniably proves that cameras can distort the image that we're seeing. So you can't just blindly pretend. If you watch a high altitude camera and you see curvature to the earth, you can't just say, well, see, well, that's the curve, that's the curve. Like, no, you can't do that because certain of these lenses can distort the image to make it look like it's a curve to it. And here's another thing as well. If you watch some of these videos with these high altitude balloon footages, when the camera is moving around, like sometimes the camera might start to pan downwards, and you'll notice if you pay attention to the background, the Earth will then turn convex, right? Like it would slightly curve inwards, right? So it turns convex. So obviously, it shows that it's just a distortion of the camera lens. It's not that the Earth actually has that curvature to it. It's just the distortion of the camera lens. And again, some people are just dishonest and, won't even consider such a thing. They'll be like, well, I myself seen the curvature of the Earth. Then you ask them, well, where do you see that? Like, how high were you to see that? Some of them will tell you, well, you can see it at the beach, right? When the boats go over the horizon, it's actually them going over a curve. Or they'll say, from a hotel balcony, you can see the curvature of the Earth if you look out. You'll see eventually it dips down, or they'll say from an airplane you see it. But then on the other hand, right, world famous astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson will come out and say, hey, look, nobody can see any curvature of the Earth from not even 127,000 feet. It's true, he really said that. Look the video up. And if you want to find it, he said that when he was giving a commentary on the Red Bull space jump that this dude, what is this guy? Felix Bob Gardner, right? Back in 2012, he did the Red Bull space jump from 127,000 feet above the earth. And, when Neil deGrasse Tyson was doing a reaction to it, right, or talking about it on one of his shows, he was laughing at it and saying, hey, look, the camera angle shows a curvature to the earth, but that's not actually true. That's actually a distortion because nobody could see any curvature to the world from 127,000 feet. So wait a second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. So how the hell is it that the average person will claim that they themselves seen the curve of the earth from the seashore? Another person will claim that they've seen it from a hotel balcony. Another person will say you can see it from an airplane that flies at like what, 37,000 feet. But yet Neil deGrasse Tyson says that no human could see any curvature of the earth from not even 127,000 feet above the earth. I mean, there's something wrong with that. I mean, clearly somebody's wrong there. So are all these regular morons wrong, or is world famous astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson wrong? So they don't even have the science right on their end. The globe earthers will be like, well, science is against flat earth, right? Flat earthers are anti-science. But yeah, the fact is, they don't even agree on the science behind their own belief. Isn't that ironic enough? And Jaron always makes a statement on his shows, right? Jaronism, you can look him up. But he goes off on certain things. But he says some stuff that's true. I'll give him credit, but then he goes off on other things. Um, Shit, what did he say? I was gonna just quote something from him. Yeah, he said that, the Globers should be fair and they should all come together and they should just agree as to at what altitude does anybody have to go to and see the curve of the earth. And if they can figure that out, we'll find a way to go there to verify it. And they can't do it, right? They can't all come to a consensus and agree as to what the exact altitude is that a person has to go to witness any type of, curvature to our world. They cannot agree on something. They all give completely contradictory statements from one another. But to get on Jaron for a little bit, as I said, he's I watched him for years and years. Um, he says some things that are right. I'll give him credit. But then he also goes off on some things. Like I'll give an example, right? He does a podcast now, which shit, I try to call into his shows, but the problem is, when he does his shows, I am not always able to hop on at that time, if you get what I'm saying. But he does a show where you're able to call in. You get like 3 or 4 minutes to talk before the next caller gets their turn. Because there's a lot of people that call into his stream, but he does videos, um, streams, excuse me. He does streams, talking shit about the Bible, right? Talking shit about the God of the Bible. But you see, when you watch his streams on it, the main thing that he's misunderstanding is he's thinking of the modern Christianity and their version of Jesus, and he's comparing that with the Bible and saying they don't add up. So see, that means the Bible is like corrupt and actually evil, right? Like we'll go to verses where God kills children or women or whole groups of people and say, well, see, that's an evil God right there. That's not like the true character of God. And I think to myself, it's like, well, how the hell do you yourself know the true character of God exactly? It's like, do you yourself, sit down and have tea with God in the morning? It's ridiculous. But then, this guy has no way to answer that question. It's like, well, how the hell do you, right? You little old Jaren, how the hell do you know the, the morals of God, right? How the hell do you know what he does and does not accept? It's like, really, how do you know that? And they don't really know, right? They have no idea. So again, pissing me off to hear it sometimes, these guys, they try to discredit the Bible, but the way they do it is by using a misinterpretation of the Bible, right? And that the characters in it. And it's a damn shame, but this is the mindset that people are on out here. And to be fair, it's not all their fault though, because a lot of these people, they were raised in the church, right? So they were raised not really knowing, um, that what they believe is actually wrong because they were taught that it's right from a young age. So another thing, right, is a lot of, these people, they believe what they believe because they might have grew up in that particular religion, when they were a child. So say for example, a lot of people might stay Catholic the rest of their life because they might have been raised Catholic. Or, a better example would be the Amish community, right? A lot of people who were raised Amish, they themselves stay Amish the whole life, and then their children after them remain Amish to carry on the tradition. Right. So again, the moral of the statement is a lot of people believe the things they believe, not because they themselves, came to those conclusions by, research and critical analysis or whatever, but they believe it because, well, that's how they were raised. Right? If you were raised as a Catholic, you'll likely stay as a Catholic. If you're raised as an Amish person, raised in an Amish household, you'll probably stay as Amish the rest of your life. It's just how it works. But if you were raised in an atheist household, the odds are that you'll remain atheist for the rest of your life. Doesn't mean everybody will, though, of course. There's exceptions to all of these. But but most people who are raised those ways end up staying like that. But again, there are some exceptions. Like I'll give an example, right? I was raised both in the Catholic Church and then also in the Seventh Day Adventist Church. But now I would call myself an Israelite. I call myself a Hebrew Israelite now. Still believe in the same book, right? Same God, same book. Just call myself an Israelite now. Why? Because, the Christian church, they have a misunderstanding of the Bible, right? So we read out of the same book, but yet one clearly contradicts the book. And of course, that one I'm talking about is the Christian church. And every denomination falls under that category. Because I'll say this. Let me say this. Even though it's true that there are certain differences between, different Christian um, churches, right? Different Christian denominations. They all are very similar though, because they all teach like the main doctrine, the main gospel that they teach is all the same among all of them. There's only some subtle differences when it comes to the doctrine, but they all hold like the main tenets of the same teaching. Like I'll give a couple examples, right? Most of them teach that Jesus Christ is God in the flesh, right? They believe that he is the Father himself. Most of them believe that. They also believe that salvation is open to all mankind, right? Every man, woman, and child in the world has a chance to believe in Jesus to be saved. They all believe that. They all teach that there is a hell that exists, right? Some teach you go there right when you die, but then others teach you go there in the future, like when judgment day comes. But nevertheless, they all teach that there's a hell that exists in some sort of way, like a place, a fire where you go and burn one day. They all teach that. Another thing, they all teach that that God loves everyone, right? That God loves every human that's ever lived, which that's clearly not true, but they all teach that. They all teach that God, he loves the sinner themselves, but he hates their sin. They all teach that as well. The only exception to some of these is what are these guys? The Westboro Baptist Church? I believe that's what they're called, right? The Westboro Baptist Church. Those guys are a exception though, because here's the funny part, right? If you're not familiar with who they are, you can quickly do a Google search on them. The Westboro Baptist Church, they're a Baptist group that goes around and they teach on the streets, but they're famous for their what people call their message of hate that they bring. Was they're actually in the right for most of the things they're saying on it. They go off on some, of course, but they're right on a lot that they're saying that, God hates, I call them rainbows, because that's true, right? Rainbow people live in that transformer lifestyle as well. God hates those people. He doesn't love them. And they're right on that. They're absolutely right. Another thing they say, God is against America. They're right on that. They're right on that. The Bible teaches that. So things like that, the Christian church will get on them and try to, confront them about it and say they're wrong, but they're actually right. So isn't that funny how the mainstream Christian churches will try to get on this Christian group, the Westboro Baptist Church, and try to say, well, they're going off, but yet what they're saying on those particular topics clearly line up with the teachings of the Bible. And the mainstream churches are actually the ones in the wrong. Here, bear with me a moment. Let me grab a drink. So again, it's amazing to me, the double standard, right? The double standard that these churches have. They'll be on there like, where we're teaching the true gospel of the Bible, right? The true message of the Bible. But yet the fact is their message completely contradicts the Bible. Like shit, I'll give you a couple of examples. Right? Christianity, they basically teach, which again, I want to be fair though, because it's not, when I say Christianity, it's not like literally every person in the church, and it's not like every congregation falls under this, but I'm talking like by a vast majority to say that for an example. But by and large, right, Christianity, they basically teach lawlessness because they teach that when Christ went on the cross, and died for the sins of the whole world, which that's a different topic, but he did away with the law, right? The law there you read in the Old Testament, you no longer have to live by that today because when Christ died on the cross, he did away with all of that. That's what the church teaches in a nutshell. So essentially, what they're teaching, and I'm not saying they're deliberately on purpose teaching this, but in a nutshell, what it actually means is they're teaching lawlessness, saying, hey, look, as long as you believe, you can do what you want. You know, you can eat that shrimp, crab, and lobster because Jesus died for you. Again, in a nutshell, that's what they're saying. Jesus did away with the laws from the Old Testament. So, you can live and let live. You can do what you want as long as you confess to believe in Jesus, as long as you show up to church every Sunday. The other 6 days of the week, you can live however you want, right? God don't care. I mean, shit, these churches are openly accepting of, rainbows and transformers into their congregation. Matter of fact, somebody like me went there and tried to confront them about it. They'll think I'm like the Antichrist, right? I'm like, being anti Jesus, right? Anti God. Isn't that ironic? No, here it is. I'm coming up telling them, you guys, even though you're not going to go out and harm somebody, living that lifestyle because you can't, with the laws they have to abide by right now, of course. But, you shouldn't be trying to associate with these people when the Bible clearly condemns what they're doing. Like, I mean, I don't get why that is like so hard for these people to understand. It's like, shit, if you're gonna make a statement and say, you shouldn't physically harm somebody like that, even though, Leviticus 20:13, but you can't go around and do that today, of course, due to the circumstance, we're all living in, in the society. But with that being said, that doesn't mean you turn around and accept those people into your congregation. I mean, like this is like it's amazing to me how what's the word I'm looking for? It's amazing to me how this is like so difficult for these people to understand. It's completely ridiculous, completely ridiculous, and that it boggles the mind how people can't grasp something so logical and so simple as this. But again, if I go there and try to confront them on it, they'll be like, "Oh, well, you can't come around here because you're teaching hate, right? You're teaching that worldly belief. You're teaching that worldliness. How the hell am I teaching worldliness by simply telling you that you shouldn't be accepting, these rainbows and transformers into the church, which is what you guys call the house of God, right? Like let's say for an example, right? If Christ himself was actually walking around today, right? If the Messiah himself was on earth right now today, and he had a church set up, right? A place where he goes and speaks every weekend. Would he accept a person who's living that sinful lifestyle into his congregation? The answer is no, he wouldn't. Why? Because Christ taught everything that you read about in the Old Testament. He taught that you got to teach men to live by the law, right? And one I always quote, one of my personal favorites, right? This clearly cuts Christianity because, Matthew 15, bear with me a second. Was it Matthew 5:17 to 19, right? Hey, look, I didn't come to do away with any law. Any man who teaches men to break the very least of the law, he'll be very least in the kingdom of heaven. But anybody that teaches to anybody, let me rephrase myself. I was just distracted. I was looking at something up the road there. So let me just say the whole thing again, just to make sure I don't say it wrong. Matthew 5:17 to 19. Christ said, I didn't come to do away with any of the commandments. Anybody who teaches men to break the very least in the law will be the least in the kingdom of heaven. But anybody who teaches men to keep the law will be great in the kingdom of heaven. So again, these churches, they don't teach to keep the law. Matter of fact, they'll come out and tell you that you're going off to teach people to live by the law. So again, the church is teaching lawlessness. That's what these churches, the mainstream churches out here, That's what they're teaching. They're teaching lawlessness. And it's a damn shame. It's a damn shame that you could have some people who sincerely, want to learn about, the gospel, might sincerely want to learn about the Bible, but then they go to these churches and they're getting, spoon-fed lies from these pork chop pastors, quite literally, by the way, right? Quite literally, pork chop pastors. I mean, shit, you can't, and I speak from experience, right? You can't have a Catholic get together without them bringing that shrimp, crab, and lobster, right? That's like the main delicacies that they serve at their get-togethers, right after the church service. Because for the churches I've been to, right, throughout my life, the way they do it is, they'll do their service for like 2 hours, depending on where you go. But then afterwards, they'll have like a dinner, right, or a meet and greet in the cafeteria at the church, which usually, of course, it depends on the facility. Some of them might have it connected to the church, but other ones might have it across the street from the church. It just depends on the setup of the building. Um, but this one church I went to, right, it had it across the street, which, fun fact, that's where I met Rakapana Matt for the first time, but that's a story for another time. Um, but when they all get together, of course, one of the main things that they're serving is that ham, right? That pig. Think to myself, it's like, wait a second, what the hell? It's like, how the hell can you guys be having this, supper in the name of Jesus, but yet you guys are sitting here, feasting on, all these foods that Christ's law clearly forbids you from eating. Because again, these people believe that Jesus is the God himself, right? They believe that the Father is Christ. So doesn't that mean that the law in the Old Testament was Christ's law then? Because he's the Father, apparently, right? He's the God of the Old Testament, according to these people. So wait a second. So you guys are breaking Jesus's law, uh, going by your logic. But you ask them about that, and they have no idea. So again, with it aggravates you at times. Trying to reason with a Christian because the odds are, no matter what you show these people, they're not going to change what they believe. But we will continue to show this information. Why? Because for the rare instance, you might have a person who might actually, hear this new information. It might actually change their mindset and change their view, which again, that's the goal of why we come out here, put this information out here, because we're trying to, teach the people the right way. We're trying to teach the people the right way who might have beforehand been, led astray by these deceivers out here. Like say for example, man, we all of us at one point in time, it doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter your background. At one point in time, we were all deceived. Right? At one time, so for some of us, not too long ago, right? For some of us, it could have been last year, could have been 6 years ago, but at one point in time, we were all deceived, and didn't know the truth. So you got to have some compassion for people who are just, now being exposed to this information for the first time. Because that's a whole nother thing. You know, somebody who's just now being exposed to this, they're not going to understand everything that you can understand right now today. Say for example, you wouldn't expect somebody who's new to the faith, right, who just became a believer, say last week, you wouldn't expect them to know as much as what who might been in the truth for say 5 years, right? You wouldn't expect somebody who's only believed for a week now to know as much as a person who has believed for the past 5 years of their life. Why? Because it's a stage of growing, right? You have to grow over a certain period of time. Like shit, I can say for myself, even after 8 years in this thing, or as Apostle Gabar would say, right, this thing of ours, right, this thing of ours. Shit, I can say for myself, I'm still learning every day, right? There's a saying in the world that goes, you learn something new every day, and it's true, right? You learn something new every single day. That's a good saying to live by. So you got to be compassionate on some people who might be just coming into this knowledge because, they can learn, right? They can learn. It's just going to take some time. But let me see. Damn, it's already been 40 minutes. Hey, the saying goes, there's a saying in the world that goes, time flies when you're having fun. And it's a true statement, right? That's a true statement. Shit, 40 minutes already went by. I didn't think it was that long. So remember, I said I only wanted to be on an hour tonight, right? So damn, it's already almost been an hour. But that's all right. Let me see. Oh, I got to comment on this. I seen that these dudes, Captain Tazariak of the ISUPK and Gorilla Hebrew, right, aka Alazar, right, the quote unquote current chief high priest is what he calls himself. They just met in person and had a discussion over at the ISUPK Atlanta school yesterday. I just watched the conversation they had today. It was pretty good, right? Pretty good conversation between these two characters. Um, which fun fact that by the way, right? They're in Atlanta, which I've actually been to Atlanta once before. I've been there in like what was it? I went to Atlanta back in 2017. I was there for a couple hours. And I stopped at the CNN Center, right? Like actually the news station place where they actually host the news at, right? The CNN building in Atlanta. Which fun fact by the way, it was um it was the same building that was on the news a couple years back because there was a George Floyd riot that took place at this CNN center in Atlanta. Right, people were pissed off about what happened to George Floyd, so they were, they broke the glass, right, throwing stones through the glass. Somebody even threw in a firecracker or a firework at the police officers inside. It's crazy video. If you look it up on YouTube, you could find what I'm talking about. It's CNN Center Atlanta, George Floyd riot. You can find the video. Entertaining. Um, yeah, that was a pretty cool place when I went there. As I said all those years ago. But yeah, Atlanta's a cool city if you ever get to see that yourself. And I know Sakari is based out there. They have a couple of GMS camps out there too, I believe. Which I was hoping to run into GMS when I was there in Atlanta, but unfortunately, they were not out that night when I was there a couple years back. You can send me a link to that, Eddie, and I'll check it out. Yeah, if you want me to check that video out, man, you can send me a link to it uh, at my personal Gmail. You have it. Um, excuse me. Let me see real quick. Hey, what's up, Von Eric? How's it going, Jill? Yo, Jill, man, if you're still listening, reach out to me at my personal Gmail. We can work out a conversation, man. Again, this is like the 20th time I'm telling you this, man. I don't know why it's so difficult for you to do that. You have my email. Contact me there and we can set up a conversation. I mean, I don't get why that's so difficult. I mean, shit, man. You know, Jill, even Perry can do that. So I mean, shit, if a monkey like him can do it, right? Somebody without a brain, if like him can do it, then your ass can do it too, man. I mean, I don't know how else to I don't know how else to say that. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. Oh, and a whole nother thing, right? You have this dude now, Babylon, right? He calls himself Jamie is his name. Which again, I've said before, man, if you listen to this guy talk, right, it's like a damn this dude this dude damn well sounds like he sounds like a castrato, right? If you listen to this guy's voice, right, his squeaky voice, this guy sounds like he's a damn castrato. Look that up if you don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, damn, this is, and I'm not even trying to be mean, right? I'm not trying to be mean to this character. I'm just, I'm being for real, right? There was a dude, even Dahar knows this guy. There's somebody years back, and this guy would always change his channel names. I don't even know what the hell he calls himself now, but he used to be named Keeping It 100, right? I'm keeping it 100, right? So I've took that little slogan from his name, right? He's keeping it 100. So now I say, when I'm being real with someone, right? I'll say I'm keeping it 100, right? Or I'll say I'm, for real, right? So I'm just keeping it 100 with you, Jill. But anyway, let me see. But yeah, Babylon. I've known this guy for like 15, 16 months now. And, a year ago, he was just like a regular church Christian. You could have a friendly conversation with. I'll give him credit. Years ago, he actually was decently friendly, excuse me. But now the dude's on there, and he follows the Perry the preacher's doctrine is what he follows now, right? Thinks he's perfect. He can't do nothing wrong. Rainbow for Jesus. And it's a damn shame. It's a damn shame, that somebody could go from being a relatively humble human being like what he was a year ago to now being just a hypocritical liar, but then pretend that he's not a liar, right? It's impossible for him to commit sin, apparently. No, so he can sit there and smoke all the weed he wants. He can sit there and, you know, um, do whatever the hell he wants. But as long as he himself doesn't call it sin, that means it's not sin. So then I cut his ass to shreds because I asked him, wait a second. You guys teach that as long as you don't consider your actions to be sin, that means God doesn't consider it to be sin for you, right? Wait a second. So why the hell would an atheist be in sin against God if an atheist they don't consider their actions to be sin because given the fact that they don't believe in God, they don't believe in the concept of sin, they don't believe in a divine law, right? So why the hell would an atheist be against God? Going by Perry's logic, right? Why the hell would they be against God and in sin if they don't believe their actions are sin? Because they don't believe in a divine law that they have to follow. AKA they don't believe in sin. And sin, according to the Bible, 1 John chapter 3, verse 4, for sin is a transgression of God's law. Right. So if the person doesn't believe in God's law, then how the hell could they be a sinner then? Going by Perry's logic. Again, the dude is cut with his own logic, but then he won't even acknowledge it because he is perfect and doesn't sin. Ridiculous. Um, I don't think so. Gospel. Right? I don't think Jill is one of those. I mean, shit, you'll have to ask him yourself, but going by what I've seen from him, I wouldn't say that. Okay, yeah, Eddie, I see the notification at the top of my screen. I got it. But I'll look at that later. I seen that the horror's live right now too with Gabar and another um brother from the camp. I was watching them for a couple minutes, but then I had this scheduled, so I wanted to. wanted to come through with my promise of going live for a little bit. But then I gotta go back and watch some of that. Uh, let's see. I do apologize. It's only an hour stream tonight, but it is what it is. Hey, it's better a little over nothing, right? Yeah, Victimhood's a cool guy. We had him on. I believe he called in the last stream I did with Jay. Eddie was there. A few other cats that we didn't know who were new to this channel. They were over there as well. But that was an interesting conversation. One thing I do, right, is I host a platform where we let anybody come on, any background, any faith, any religion. They're welcome to come on, and we can have a friendly back and forth dialogue. Your topic of choice. It doesn't have to be with name calling or swearing or any of that. You can have a nice friendly back and forth conversation. And that's the way that you get your point across to other people. I was just watching a video an hour ago actually of on Deacon Destruction Mode's page where he and these other Christians were having a debate, and for like 50% of the video time these guys are just yelling at each other, making jokes on one another, talking over each other. It's ridiculous. You don't learn nothing like that. It's not educational or entertaining for the audience to see something like that. Well, for some people it might be entertaining, but for people actually wanting to learn a thing or two from hearing, two sides of a opposing view have a conversation, they don't learn nothing with just seeing a bunch of grown dudes, act like, toddlers. It's ridiculous. But this is how these people think. Well, I think Deacon's a cool guy, but he goes off on some things, right? Which you guys didn't know this, but Gorilla, right, aka Alazar and Deacon, years and years ago, those guys used to be part of GMS. They used to be part of the group. Now I don't know if they got kicked out by the leaders or if they left on their own. I can't answer that because I'm not necessarily sure if they left on their own or they got kicked out over something they did. But one way or another, they left and they set up their own group, right? The Sakari. But those guys used to be under GMS banner, years and years ago. That's the history with those guys. Same thing with these guys that call themselves tried and refined, right? These guys, what are they? CHI, right? Tried and refined Israelites, which I don't know where the hell those guys are. They used to be on YouTube. We had a couple debates with them. I myself, the minor Shareg, and Jay was there a couple times too, where these guys will call in, and debate about certain topics. And I mean, those dudes are a clear example of being bugged the hell out, man. They used to be part of the GMS Chicago camp. And I used to watch them years ago. I remember back in like 2016, they used to be GMS Chicago. I remember watching some of their videos. But then they got kicked out of the camp because, well, over flat earth, which they were right on that. But then, of course, they stole off and said some whacked out shit as well, saying that, Babylon the Great would be destroyed by volcanoes, among other nonsense. But they got worse and worse and worse. Then they threw out the UFOs or the chariots. They threw out, missiles in the Bible. They threw out. Um, I mean, shit, it got so bad to where, oh, the Vatican City's Mystery Babylon, can't forget that one. Um, it got so bad that they now throw out the New Testament, right? They literally throw out the New Testament and say that the New Testament is a fabrication, right? So they accept the Old Testament, but now they reject the New Testament. But yet, just a year ago, a year and a half ago, when they hopped on my channel, they believed in the the New Testament. They believed in the New Testament, but now they only believe in the Old Testament. I believe that the camp leader is a guy named Nazariah, right? This guy, they call him Naz, right? Short, but his real name is Nazariah, which I spoke to that guy one time. They did a stream where they let people call in. It's amazing to me the amount of followers that these guys have. It's like you'd think of these guys, because they barely upload anything on the internet. Shit, I don't even think they have any videos up on YouTube anymore. Last time I checked, these guys are on um, a app called, what is it, Clubhouse, right? These people are using something now that's called Clubhouse. That's what they here for me a second. That's what they're using to talk to people. Janie said, "We live with Paul." Who's Paul that you're talking about? Maybe Jay's familiar with that person, but I'm not familiar with who Paul is here. You'll have to let me know. Well, I'm gonna wrap up in a couple of minutes here. If there's any last minute questions, you're welcome to ask now in the chat down below. I'm gonna wrap up in just a couple of minutes here. So as I said, short stream tonight, but no, I didn't want to disappoint because I said I was gonna do one. All right, let me see. And Eddie, I'll check out that video a little bit later, man. But I did get the email you just sent me. I got that. Oh, I wanted to comment on this. Here's something I can talk about. I was downtown the other day. I want to say like maybe 2 days ago now. And as I was downtown, I ran into there was two groups of Jehovah Witnesses on the same street, right? So I walk over to these two dudes that were there, and they were like, "Oh, me no English, but me no English," inside joke. But then he tells me in English to go over to the other Jehovah Witnesses across the street. So it's like, wait a second. So you don't speak English, but yet you told me in English to go over to talk to those guys. Which I wasn't going to argue what to do because I don't got time for that. But I was thinking to myself, it's like, what the hell? So you don't speak English, but you just told me in clear English to go over to the other Jehovah Witnesses. It's like, what the hell? And then I asked the other dude, right? He don't speak English either. So without arguing with them, I just walked over to the other group of Jehovah Witnesses, and we had a conversation, which it's up on my channel if you want to watch it. For those on Jay's channel who don't know mine, you can look me up, End Time Teacher, right? End Time Teacher, and I have the same icon I have on my screen there. If you want to check the conversation out, it was about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And really what I had to do, because again, anybody who has any experience with Jehovah Witnesses, you would know that they don't like to be on camera, right? They don't like to have conversations on camera, and they also don't like to have debates, right? They don't debate. So, I had to secretly record the conversation without them, noticing that I'm recording. So that's why the quality of the screen is not so well if you watch the video, but it's the audio that counts. It's the conversation that counts that you get to listen to. So, it was an interesting conversation, but there was a point in it where I asked him about, well, what about down the street from where we're standing? because again, this was downtown, right, where that church line, the rainbow flag is. So I asked the Jehovah Witnesses, it's like, wait a second. So what do you guys think? Like, what are your personal opinion, regarding the Bible that you're holding in your hands, and about the group down the street who claims to believe in the Bible, but they're flying a rainbow flag outside of their church? I mean, like, what do you guys think about that? They were like, oh, that's none of our business. If they want to do that, they can go and do that. We don't judge people here, right? We don't want to cause division among people. But then clearly cut them to shreds because I asked them, wait a second, though. So you guys aren't trying to bring division. But then in Matthew, the 10th chapter, like verse 34 on down, Christ said that he didn't come to earth to bring peace, but he came to bring a sword. He came to bring division among people. So why the hell are you guys saying you're trying to bring everybody together? But yet Christ said that he's coming to bring division. But you guys said you're not trying to cause division among people. They don't really know how to get around that. So I mean, I cut them up. But of course, you want to keep it friendly and respectable so they don't, cut the conversation down and leave. Because you know what? I noticed this. It always seems like when I have a conversation with these people, they always, start packing up and are ready to leave because, I think really going on is they just don't want to have the conversation. So when they start getting cornered, they just pack up and say they got to leave. Because it's like, why the hell else are you guys there? It's not like you're going to have any other person except maybe one or two people that stop by for like 5 minutes and have a chat with you, maybe take a book or two from you. But it's like if somebody actually comes up who might know what they're talking about, like myself, and tries to, ask you certain questions as to what you're saying, it's like, why would you not engage in a conversation? Then the funny part to me is they don't want to be on video, but it's like, wait a second. So you guys don't want to be on video, but you're perfectly fine with coming out in public and talking to people. It's like, isn't there something weird about that? It's like, if you guys don't want to be on video, then why the hell are you coming out in public among everybody out there? Like, what is so wrong with somebody recording you? Like, I just don't get that. But again, they don't know, right? They don't even know what they believe in. As ridiculous and as ironic as that sounds, they don't even know why they believe the things that they themselves believe. Hey, what's up, Luke? How's it going, man? But but yeah, which I asked them certain questions, just trying to, trick them up and, and see like what they'd say, and shit like that. Because I already know, right? I already know beforehand that they don't really know a whole lot, so I might ask them, certain trick questions and, stuff to stick them up. Like, say, for an example, right? I started off the conversation with asking them about reincarnation, which I knew they didn't know much about that. So we didn't go too deep on that. But then the guy was like, no, because I asked him, well, what happens to people when they die? Because I wanted to see if they'd say, when you die, you go right to heaven, which is not true in the Bible, but a lot of people believe that, right? They believe that, if you're wicked, you'll die and go straight to hell and burn. If you're righteous, you'll go right to heaven with Jesus when you die. That's not true. But I wanted to ask him just so I don't misrepresent his standpoint. But he was like, nope, when you die, you're dead, and that's it. But then I had to reiterate to him, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, when you die, you're dead, but it's like, well, what state is your soul in when it leaves the body? Which we agreed on actually, because he was like, in a state of unconsciousness, which is true because the Bible compares being dead to being asleep. Clear example of that is John the 11th chapter, when Christ was with the apostles. He said that Lazarus was taking a sleep, but then the apostles thought that he was speaking to him just taking a nap. But then Christ reiterated and said, well, no, Lazarus is dead. So that's a clear example of being dead being compared to sleep in the Bible. So believe it or not, that was a topic that me and the Jehovah Witnesses could come to a agreement about, um, unbelievably. It's weird that we actually agreed on something for once. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Luke. Hope you get better soon, man. But as I said, this wasn't gonna be a long stream tonight. I just wanted to go live for a little bit because I said I would. Um, let's see. But yeah, I think I'll call that the stream there. Um, yeah, I'll call that the stream there. Hope everybody was edified by the conversation. Anybody who made it to the end, go ahead and put hashtag let's see. Hashtag four, just because there's four listeners to this right now. So hashtag four if you made it to the end. But anyway, I'm gonna say shalom.